Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In February 2025, United States and India announced Mission 500, a goal to push bilateral trade to $500 billion by 2030. And just recently, actually today, they have announced the trade deal. They have finalized the trade deal for 2026. And the joint statement has been released. Okay, a year later, February 2026, US India joint statement is where the language gets more real. What do you mean by more real? See, in 2025, it was more of a nicety than showing all the pleasantries, good stuff, talking about friendliness, taking the trade to $500 billion, and all that good stuff. But after a year in February 2026, the new joint statement basically talks about a proper official language where it talks about it puts an 18% reciprocal tariff rate on the page, adds rules of origin to stop rerouting, and includes snapback style language if either side changes the tariff later. Meaning that, let's say tomorrow, if US decides to impose extra tariff on India, then India will impose tariffs on US too. India is not obligated to deal with US tariff, meaning that nobody can basically backstab or betray each other. Both parties can follow the rules. It also introduces a second 500 billion number by saying India intends to buy $500 billion of US goods over 5 years across energy, aircraft and parts, technology and products, and more. Whereas in 2025, language was a little bit different, and we're going to talk about all that in the video. Okay, the important detail is this: the joint statement lays out the framework and key terms that it does not publish final signing date for the full agreement, meaning that the final date is not there yet. Even though India's Commerce Union Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal, he said that they intend to sign the trade deal, officially trade deal. They want to sign that thing by mid March. Okay, so the document also says the same thing, that it will move quickly to implement and finalize. And Indian officials have indicated this thing too, through different channels. All right. So question really is that what exactly did 2026 statement add that the 2025 statement did not? So what's the change? What's the difference between the two official statements, that is joint statements? So, and then why there is different $500 billion number? What does that mean? Is it good for India? Is it good for US? What exactly all that means? And that's what we're going to talk about in this video today. So stay with me till the end. Please do like and subscribe, and let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back. So, India US trade deal is moving forward, and the joint statement has been released. And that's what we are going to talk about today. As to we will go over the joint statement, we will see what exactly is the difference between the older joint statement, that is what that was released on February 13, 2025, and compared to what has been released on 6th of February 2026. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's get started without much ado. Please do like and subscribe. Let's get going. Okay, so with the trade deal, Prime Minister Modi, he announced this whole thing, and he made great news for India. We have agreed on a framework for an interim trade agreement between our two great nations. I thank President Trump for his personal commitment to robust ties between our countries. Now he's using the word robust. Okay, this framework reflects the growing depth, trust, and dynamism of our partnership. It strengthens Make in India by opening new opportunities for India's hardworking farmers, entrepreneurs, and MSMEs, startup innovators, and fishermen, and more. It will generate large scale employment for women and youngsters. India and the United States share a commitment to promoting innovation, and this framework will further deepen investment and technology partnerships between us. He also, so what he's saying, it will investment and technology partnerships. Okay, this framework will also strengthen resilient and trusted supply chains and contribute to global growth. As India moves forward towards building a Viksit Bharat, We remain committed to building global partnerships that are future oriented, empower our people, and contribute to shared prosperity. So, two key things: robust ties, investment, and technology partnerships, meaning that there will be some investment from the US side into artificial intelligence, technology, and all that. And also, there will be partnership in lots of things, meaning that there will be TOT, that is technology of transfer of technology will be involved into this thing. Okay, then India's Commerce Minister, the Mr. Piyush Goyal, he goes on to say that under the decisive leadership of PM Narendra Modi ji, India has reached a framework for an interim agreement within the with the US. This will open a 30 trillion market for Indian exporters, especially MSMEs, farmers, and fishermen. The increase in exports will create lakhs of new jobs opportunities for our women and youth. As part of this framework, US will slash reciprocal tariffs on Indian goods to 18%, providing a huge market opportunity in key sectors such as textiles and apparel, leather and footwear, plastic and rubber products, organic chemicals, home decor, artisanal products, and select machinery in the world's largest economy. Now, you have to understand few things here. So leather and footwear, that's very important. Then textile and apparel. So it looks like the Pakistan and Bangladesh are doomed with this. Plastic and rubber products, organic chemicals. This is what India mainly sells to pretty much everyone. Additional tariffs will go down to zero on a wide range of goods, including generic pharmaceuticals. So, generic pharmaceutical, tariffs will be reduced on these things because President Trump is launching a website. Okay, he's going to launch a website called TrumpRx.com. Now, TrumpRx.com's job will be to provide the low cost generic pharmaceutical medicines or pharmaceuticals to the American people. That's the whole entire intent. So I believe that that's why the tariffs will be zeroed on it. At first, he didn't realize uh, that India is the second largest producer of generic pharmaceuticals. So probably now he got the sense. So that's what it was. All right. Now let's go back. This is just the statement from the ministers I'm reading. Now, gems and diamonds, aircraft parts, and we will get to aircraft parts later on in the video, all right? Thereby further enhancing India's export competitiveness and make in India. It will also get exemptions under Section 232 on aircraft part. What is Section 232? Section 232 is the exemptions for the national security tariffs. So if I recall correctly, then there is IEEP tariff that is there. There are two types of tariffs in US. Those one is IEEP tariff. Then there is some random. I can't remember the second one, but IEEE tariff is the main the tariff that is the national security tariff. Okay, so meaning that under that, actually US can under this section 32 to 232, US can simply uh, uh, tariff you or do something to. Stop buying your product under the national security threat. That's what they did with China. Okay. The tariff rate quota on auto parts and negotiated outcomes on generic pharmaceuticals leading to tangible export gains in these sectors. We'll talk about all this. Okay. At the same time, agreement reflects India's commitment to safeguarding farmers' interest and sustaining rural livelihoods by completely protecting sensitive agriculture and dairy products, including maize, wheat, rice, soya, poultry, milk, cheese, ethanol, tobacco, and certain vegetables and meat, etc. Okay. So what they're saying is that agreement reflects India's commitment to safeguarding farmers' interests and sustaining rural livelihoods by completely protecting sensitive agricultural and dairy products, including maize, wheat, rice, soya, poultry, milk, cheese, ethanol, tobacco, certain vegetables, meat, etc. Now you have to understand this that tobacco is also it's grown a lot in the US. Okay, I mean, in my state where I live, this is primary thing. The tobacco is the primary means of farming, actually, agriculture. Then you wheat, rice, and all is grown here a lot. Okay, the milk, cheese. So that's what they did. So basically, this they're safeguarding it. So what exactly they are relaxing for US is, I will talk about that later in the video too. This agreement will help India and the US remain focused on working together to further deepen economic cooperation, reflecting shared commitments to sustainable growth for our people and businesses towards realizing Viksit Bharat. So that's what India's goal is. India's goal is 2047. Okay, Vision 2047. All right. So so deal is this. And I made a video on 2025 joint statement as well, so please do go check it out. I'll post the link down below, and you can learn a lot from it as well. That's just to see the difference between the two things. Okay, there is a major difference in lots of things. In fact, I think that they have removed lots of commitments from 2025 in the 2026 statement. Okay, so in the joint statement, in 2025 joint statement, like India law, US India compact. Okay, compact is an acronym. You can go check it out, my video, and you will learn about that in that video. It said the trade headline goal mission was like mission 500, targeting 500 billion in total bilateral trade by 2030. In 2025 statement, okay, they said this thing. And then it announced the intention to negotiate the first tranche of bilateral trade agreement by fall 2025. The whole idea was that by fall, that is August 2025, they will sign all those things and they will be done. Okay, so it listed early steps, all the good stuff of tariff lowering, market access improvement, but it did not publish a reciprocal tariff rate or enforcement mechanics. Okay, all this was not done. But in 2026, the language is pretty robust and it's very tight in the sense when it comes to tariff rates, enforcement mechanics, that how those things will be enforced, what are the clause for for if there is a problem, like somebody digresses from the deal, then what happens. So there is no relaxation, there is very little room for relaxation as far as deal is concerned. Okay, so it was broad, strategic, and last sections on defense platforms, they talked about all that a lot. I mean, I have talked about that in my video too, so you go check it out. Okay, so we're not gonna spend too much time in this thing. All right, now in 2026 statement, what exactly changes in 2026 statement? 2026 statement, basically it's not a goal, or it's just like a closer to the deal summary. Okay, both sides agreed on a framework for an interim agreement, a smaller deal now. So what they're doing is this. Okay, let me explain this to you, and I can show you the joint statement as well. Okay, so 1 second. There you go. So if you look at this joint statement, okay, this joint statement, if you see, it's not too big. Okay, this is just very small joint statement compared to the joint statement that was in 2025. If you go look at it, you'll find that that joint statement was very, very long. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Okay, and then I am going to show you, or maybe just not waste too much time into it, huh? Uh, so you just find it and you can look it up. I'm not gonna waste too much time into it. But it's just very small, it's small right now. The 2026 statement, okay. 2025 statement basically was mainly focused on the defense and technology, artificial intelligence, and all that good stuff. Here, it's not that much. Okay, it includes exact numbers, rules, just friendly words. It talks about rules like this is what counts as a real US India product, rules of origin, all these things are basically the nuances, the legalities of all those things. Okay, now what exactly is going on here? Let me just take a step back and explain you the agreement so that you understand the reality from the noise. You can segregate those things. Okay, uh Noise is this. Noise is that Indian side is uh sh- let's say making noise about how India won. Yay, we did not succumb to US pressure and this and that. How India is strong, India is great power, India is superpower. All that fair, good. Yes, you should do it. Then on the US side, they are all bragging about peace through strength, how President Trump has done all the great work. He has forced India to buy $500 billion worth of American goods and this and that. But the reality is this, guys. See, first of all, US will have to produce $500 billion worth of stuff for India to buy. Okay. And then India also, uh, it's India intends to buy. That's what the joint statement said. India does not say that India is guaranteed to buy. That the way President Trump made it look like in his statement. India intends to buy. Now I can give this that to you on my fingertips. What exactly India is going to buy? Okay. First thing first is the $80 billion Boeing aircraft deal. That was the Air India deal that Tata is going to buy. All that was there, right? So because that deal was pushed back with because of lots of things that happened in 2025. Now India definitely wants to buy that, okay? Because if India wants to improve Air India, and if India wants to increase the tourism and all that, okay, tourism is a very big part of it, and if India wants to increase that, then India will have to increase its aircraft, improve the service, right? In the Air India service and all that, they will have to improve that. Without that service, uh, tourism is not going to grow. Now, that's number one thing. Second thing is that slowly and slowly over the period of time, the direct flight from US to India, they are decreasing. Okay. There used to be, but most of those flights have been, they have shut down. All right. So Air India is the only service that can do that, this part. So if US and India wants to grow their trade, then there has to be a direct flight as well. Okay. So for that, this Boeing deal was necessary, the $80 billion deal. Okay. That's number one thing. Number two thing is that uh, I can tell you that India will definitely buy the US nuclear reactors with technology transfer. Okay. Now, if US will transfer the technology, I don't know. But that's what India intends to do because that was in the original 2025 joint statement as well. So I believe that that has not been taken, that has not been removed yet. Okay. So what India will do, probably 30-40 billion dollar deal. That's gonna be 30-40 billion dollar deal. Okay. So $80 billion plus 30 or 40 billion, $120 billion. All right. India already has a $40 billion technology, the services import from US. Okay. So if you look at it, that's already $200 billion. Now India is going to focus, since India is going to focus on artificial intelligence. So if India needs a LLM, its own LLM, its own neural network, and its own artificial intelligence ecosystem, complete ecosystem, then India is going to need rock solid GPUs. So something that H200 style GPUs, or even better GPUs, right? Until India is able to make its own GPU. So India will have to sign the deals with Nvidia. So if you haven't invested in Nvidia stock, please go ahead and do that. So so India is gonna spend too much money on that as well. So when India does that, that means that that's gonna be a rock solid deal as well. Then comes defense procurement. India has already signed almost $10 billion worth of defense procurement from US, which I talked about, right? P8 Poseidon, then Chinooks, then Javelin, then there are a few other things. Okay. So those things. So that's like 300, almost $250 billion I've already counted. Okay. Now India may go ahead and India may buy some Venezuelan oil. The Venezuelan oil, probably for the light crude. So India normally used to buy almost billion or $2 billion worth of uh, light crude from US. Okay. and that light crude has petrol, so that's what India buys. What they're going to do is probably they may increase that from $2 billion to $5 or $6 billion, maybe. So and then other things like agriculture products and all that. So I'm thinking that probably I already can see have $300 billion just right away, and then rest of the stuff probably India will decide if they should invest into it or not, if they see anything, they see it profitable. Okay, so those the type of things are there in this 2026 joint statement. All right, now the tariff architecture is that if you look into this thing and you can read it from the joint statement as well, that India commits to eliminate a reduced tariff on all US industrial goods and wide range of US food and agricultural items, with example listed in the statement. If you go read the joint statement, you will see that. Now what are those things? So let's see. uh India will eliminate reduced tariff on all. Here you go. Okay. What they're going to do? These are the products. Okay. Let's see. Red sorghum for animal feed, animal feeds, tree nuts, fresh and processed fruit, soybean oil, wine and spirits, and additional products like pulse. Then so the pulse was there, and the soybean, mainly soybean oil, because China has imposed tariff on soybean oil, American export. So Chinese are not buying it anymore, so US is just trying so that India can actually accommodate that part. All right, so that's why soybean oil is there. Same thing of wine and spirits as well. Chinese have impose tariffs on it, so they're asking India to accommodate that. Then pulse is there, additional products. In additional products you will see the pulse is there as well, because of India had imposed 30% tariffs on the pulse, imported pulse from US. So North Dakota and Montana senators were in India begging about for tariff reduction and all that. Okay, so these are some of the things. Now let's go back to our slide. All right, so the now United States will apply they mentioned this thing, it will apply reciprocal tariff rate of 18% on originating goods of India. They will identify goods, if the goods are really originated from India or not. Why? Because this is, see, this language here is critical here. You have to understand the language. Okay, this language is used because the practices the Chinese used. What Chinese were doing is that Chinese were setting up their factories in Mexico, and then they were exporting those products, calling it made in Mexico, to United States. Now Mexico falls under USMCA deal in the trade pact. Okay, so with that, because of that USMCA trade deals, what was happening is that those products were least tariffed, or practically they had no tariff. That was a free trade agreement. So because of that, Chinese were benefiting from it. That's why here in this thing, US has used a very specific language, originating goods of India. Okay, so they are going to keep an eye on for all these things. Okay, the statement lists India's export categories covered by the US 18% rate, including textile and apparel, leather and footwear. We talked about this, right? It adds a conditional removal tied to successful conclusion of interim agreement, referencing an annex for aligned partners, naming categories such as generic pharmaceutical. We talked about that as well. Now, actually, I forgot to talk about something real quick. Okay. Now, what exactly is happening is this. So, because of the 2025 debacle, okay, because of 2025 debacle, now what India and US they are doing is that they're saying that, hey, let's do this. Let's do this. What? Let's figure out, let's start small. Okay, let's start small and see how that goes. Meaning that we have set of A products, A products, and you have set of B products. Let's do this. I buy your B and you buy our A, and let's see how that goes. And then we will grow this whole thing from that point on. So that's why they're saying that this sign the small trade deal and see if you guys are comfortable with it, and then we re-examine things few months later and then sign a bigger deal, and so on and so forth. So what they're saying is that let's not sign a major big deal, call it free trade agreement or mother of all deals like Europeans did. Instead, we're going to sign small deals, and we will work all that out. And wherever and basically small deals as in where we are converging rather than wasting our time in divergences. So let's sign the convergence first, and whatever we are diverging on, whatever we don't agree upon, let's keep discussing that. Let's keep it on the table. Let's discuss it. And whenever, probably 6 months later, a year later, if we decide that yeah, there is some breakthrough in those things, then yeah, let's move forward and sign those. Otherwise, rest of it we have already signed, and let's continue with that. Okay. So the way I am seeing it is that it's not uh it's just a bilateral trade agreement. It's not a so-called free trade agreement the way everyone is getting all happy and everything about it. That's not the case. It's just a bilateral agreement. And earlier in 2025, US was treating it as a free trade agreement. Even though it was a bilateral trade agreement, US was treating it as a free trade agreement, sort of. And that's what US actually wanted to do. Uh, but Indian conditions and India's domestic politics and all does not allow that type of stuff. So so now what's happening is that now both parties are really treating it as a bilateral agreement, and they are going to deal with it as such. Okay, that's the difference between 2025 and 2026 in nutshell. Okay. So the tariff architecture that this is I just talked about, that appears only in 2026. Now, non-tariff barriers and the compliance language. Let's look at the compliance language. Okay, so what exactly is the compliance? It's very tight language actually. India agrees to address barriers affecting trade in US medical devices described as long-standing in the statement. Okay, India agrees to eliminate restrictive import licensing procedures that delay market access for or impose quantitative restrictions on US information and communication technology goods. So information and communication technology goods, now India will have to look into things like Starlink and all that, or any other mobile device or something. Those type of stuff India will have to look into and probably figure out how to deal with all that. Okay. The statement sets a 6 month decision window on whether US developed or international standards, including testing requirements, are acceptable for US exports into India in identified sectors. So what is this is that instead of such a 6 month decision, that whatever India's exports are going to be in US, instead of delaying it for years and this and that, 6 months is the upper limit. You decide if it follows the your standard or not, make a decision, and so that we can move forward with it rather than delaying this whole thing. So both sides commit to discuss standard and conformity assessment procedures for mutually agreed sectors to make compliance easiest. So this is compliance red tape basically, right? So they call it compliance and all that, but those red tapes, this, so when they say non-tariff barriers and compliance language, that's what they're talking about. They're saying that let's focus on removing the red tapes. Then comes the actual part, the tricky part. Tricky part is the $500 billion language. $500 billion language here is very different. Okay. So 2025 documents in $500 billion was a 2030 target for total bilateral trade. $500 billion 2030 target for a total bilateral, meaning two-way goods and services over time, meaning that excuse me, the $500 billion trade could be that $400 billion India's export to US and $100 billion US export to India. But when US says in 2026 document, that 2026 document introduces a different 500 billion line, stating India intends to purchase $500 billion of US energy exports, aircraft parts, precious metals, technology products, and coking coal over the next 5 years. Okay, so that's the language at this point here. Okay, so what they're saying is, what does that mean? It simply means that it's it's not a $500 billion trade. What they're saying is that you buy this much from us. What US is saying that, hey, we are only interested in your market, so that your consumer, we are not interested in your producers. That's where the problem is. So, and India also needs certain things. So, in what India will do is that India will procure all those things from them, but that will be conditional. You have to understand that, because of the history of trade between the two countries. History of trade between the two countries has been very dodgy and very shady, actually, I would say. Why it is shady? Because when you commit to something and you don't deliver after taking the money, then there is a problem. That's called shady deal. So I think lots of these clauses that are added in there, they are mainly addressing India's concern that, hey, we buy stuff from you, but you don't deliver. So what's the point in buying it from you? So what President Trump is saying, that, hey, you buy it from us and we will deliver. I will make sure that it gets delivered. Well, uh, let's see. We will start small and then we will see how it goes. Okay, so here the $500 billion. Now let's get, I mean, $500 billion part that we're talking about at this point here is that, first thing is that it's going to avoid the trade deficit between, I mean, trade imbalance between the two countries. That's America's biggest concern, is that any major deal, any big deal that America signs, America wants to make sure that there is no trade imbalance. So when they sign $500 billion deal, so they're saying that you buy $500 billion worth of stuff from us. And we don't know how much stuff we are going to buy from you. Only thing we will do is that we will open the market for you. So you can, if you want, you can grow that. Um, you can grow your exports, which means that there is no upper limit for it. As much as India wants to export their product to the US, they can, as long as they are ready, as long as they're buying this whole $500 billion worth of stuff in next 5 years. That's the whole intent here. Now, joint statement does not talk about Russian oil purchase or any such thing either. Okay, so that's a, basically that's a no discussion thing. Okay, that's a no go zone for India. That, and US has understood that part too, that talking just Russia name is a no go zone. India, that's what India has told Europe, and that's what India has said to the US as well, that Russia is a no go zone for us, so let's not even discuss it. Any name with R, we don't want to discuss it. And that's the bottom line. For India, that discussion is a red line. That if you will discuss that with us, we are not going to discuss anything further with you. Okay. So, and I have made a video on the why India will not stop buying Russian oil. Okay. I made a video on it and I'll post the link below and you can go check it out too. Okay. Because that video actually gives you the full calculation of what exactly is going on and why India will never stop doing that. Okay, that video is basically about India's big play in the oil market. So when you watch that video, you will get the picture what I'm talking about. That's exactly how things are gonna play out. Based on what I am seeing, that's what the game will be. Okay, so I will post the link. You can check it out too. Now, coming back to $500 billion. So with five bilateral trade of $500 billion, when you say $500 billion bilateral trade, means that there could be trade imbalance. But here, when they're saying that India intends to buy, so India may at least buy $200 billion worth of stuff and see if it gets delivered. So I think India will buy all that, not in 5 years, but as those things are delivered in the, because 80 Boeing aircrafts are not going to be delivered in 5 years. Let's face the reality. Okay, so India is going to pay them based on the delivery rather than pay them and never get delivered. All right. So another thing that they add in this whole thing is in the new joint statement, it has digital trade deliverables committing both sides to address discriminatory burdensome practices to set pathway to robust digital trade rules within the bilateral trade agreement. Digital trade meaning that, like the Alibaba and all that. They're like Alibaba is there for China. Same way, there are platforms in India as well. Those platforms will be allowed, and then also there is Amazon as well for, I mean, the US platforms that are in India, and then Indian platforms will be available in US as well. So all those things probably will be sorted out in this thing. Now, so what exactly is the final verdict on this thing? Is this a good deal for India, or is this a bad deal for India, or what is it? See, overall, it's here in nutshell. I will tell you. Okay, I will go with a very nutshell thing, and I have said this thing from the get go when the whole rift started in 2025. I said, I have said all along that no matter what US does, India's goal at this point will be to only procure what is meaningful for India, and India will also do whatever to make sure that Indian exporters actually are able to hedge their risks. They get enough time to hedge their risks. Okay. So, and India is not going to increase this trade. Why? Because this is not trade. This is like, okay, hey, this is my marketing scheme. This is more like a marketing scheme that there are a whole bunch of products are there. Actually, let me explain you a little bit better. Okay. So what US, let's say US side is here. Okay. US side is saying that, hey, we have products A, B, C. Which one do you buy? A, you want to buy A, B, or A, B, or C, or all of them? And India is saying that, hey, we have products E, F, and G. Okay. E, F, and G. Which one do you want to buy? This is more like a marketing scheme that's going on here, that they both are marketing their products, and they're like, okay, all right, what we're going to do, let's remove the red tapes and this and that. And US is saying that, hey, you guys, US telling India, hey, you guys have lots of red tapes, can you remove those? India is saying that, hey, you guys have red tapes too, can you remove those? So they both are like, okay, yeah, we will remove some. All right. So India's like, hey, I am interested in B, but because of this red tape, I cannot buy it. US is saying that, yeah, because of red tape, I cannot buy F from you. So those type of things are going on right now. It's just marketing gimmick. That's all this whole trade deal is. It's not a free trade agreement, and it's nothing that is going to give India any kind of special boost, I would say. Okay, meaning that if India US relations would have been just normal, India would have gotten all these things, same thing, just with the normal thing too. So there was not much hoopla. There's no much hoopla. There's no, oh yes, yay type of thing. Okay, India would have easily procured the Nvidia chips and all that. India would have easily procured all the AI tech and all that. All those companies are already in India. Let's face it. Okay. World Economic Forum realizes that. That's why Larry Fink was there, BlackRock guy. All these companies have heavily invested in India. Okay. So only thing that's happening with the signing of this trade deal is that that President Trump can brag about it in his country, and Prime Minister Modi can brag about all that in his country. Okay, both parties get to brag about it. Both leaders get to brag about it because of the political scenarios. Otherwise, I would say that this 2026 deal is a complete downgrade from what it was in 2025 and before that. Okay, why? First thing, there is 18% tariff you have to pay. Now if you're paying 18% tariff, then how that trade deal is good for you? Second thing is that this is $500 billion, not not a mutual trade, but more like a that, hey, buy this product, more like a marketing scheme and selling points. Okay, this is not gonna be a bilateral trade. They're calling it trade and all that, but this is more like bilateral selling our product for this much. Okay, so and that, so it's just to thaw the relations between India and US. That's the whole entire intent of this whole entire deal. Okay, this is very dry deal at best, if you ask me. Okay, dry deal, so that India can secure its exporters interests, and those exporters will, you just watch as India grows its free trade agreements with other countries and develops its shorter supply chains and develops its good, improves its relationship with China more and more. What's going to happen is that India is going to reduce its export to United States over the period of time, and India will just buy certain things that India needs, for example in the hardware things, right, like aircraft, the military hardware, then energy sectors like nuclear reactors and all that. So India will probably just limit itself to those things, and rest AI and all is already being invested in India as it is. So that's what it is. This deal is like a so type of deal. There's nothing special about it, at least if you ask me. That is based on the joint statement. I will have to read the whole entire deal document when it will be signed in March. But that will be a smaller deal. You have to understand that that's a smaller deal. That's not the full deal. Okay. This deal is gonna be in batches. First batch, second batch, third batch, like that. Each batch will be thoroughly discussed. And when they discuss it, then they review it, and then they're gonna sign each of those deals separately, like that. That's how it's gonna be. Okay, so there's nothing special about it. It's just to thaw the relation between the two countries. All right, so that's that for all this thing. Please do like and subscribe. Hope you learned from this video. So yes, please do like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in another video.